Are you an entrepreneur building an influencer brand or an executive brand? And which one should you build? Today's episode, we go deep into this conversation. Influencer or executive brand. So often now we're hearing people talk about what type of brand they should be building as a business person, an entrepreneur. So today I really want to help our audience understand not that there's one that's right or wrong, but what's the difference and what we feel is the best one to lead with as an entrepreneur.
Well, it depends on what you're doing. Really. I mean, like for us, our brand is an executive brand, right? And why is that? That's because in the way that we work, we talk to a very specific audience, A. B, we are, the way we dress to service those audience. We're not about everybody having eyeballs on us. We are very specific in who we want to transform, if you will.
So what I'm hearing is, correct me if I'm wrong, an executive brand, right, is more about the audience you want to serve and the message you want to deliver to them.
Correct.
And an influencer brand is more of, I want to capture attention for possibly a later purpose, but most importantly, it's all about me creating a personal brand that is about gaining eyeballs and attention that I could market later versus an visibility, right? And an executive brand, as I always think about it, is you're really creating a brand that is going to teach and market your product to a very specific audience. And it's not about getting as many views on it as you can. You want to get the right views.
Correct. I mean, you want to get as many views of your kind of people.
Right.
Right? I mean, if you're a comedian, that's what you do. You want to bring light to everyone. They don't have a very specific audience. Everybody wants to laugh. Everybody wants to be funny. Right. And so, and they thrive on that. When we show up on social media, we show up with purpose.
Right.
In my opinion, right? I mean, that's my perspective. There are some people that, and that's not to say that there are people out there that are influencers that they don't have an impact. They actually do.
Right.
But from a standpoint of differentiating the two brands are very specific.
Right. I think a lot of times people look at influencers are more lifestyle, but I think that a lot of time, or they could be a comedic person.
Well, product-based. I mean, they're about promoting a specific product that they believe in, or they might gonna make more money on, or, they want to bring trends to the market. That is more what they do.
Gotcha. And then, so Madeline, not that they can't be both, but for our audience, how would you help them understand which one they should lead with?
From my perspective, our audience, if they are looking to have one or the other, they need to be very clear of what their end game is. If they want to show up as an executive and want to be very specific to a pool of audience, then executive brand it is. If you want to be for everyone, then an influencer brand.
Okay, so let's just assume that they want to first communicate very specifically. I think the influencer for most can come over time, right? Because I think that a lot of times, though, as entrepreneurs or business owners, we hire social media companies, we do marketing, and we're looking at how many people like, and we're looking at what you always call, and you do call, the dopamine effect of like social media and that type of marketing, right? So if you're putting content out there, I'd rather, as we said earlier, have the right people looking at it And obviously I want as many as I possibly can get, but I want the right people to be looking at it because they're truly going to be an opportunity me to market and sell my product or service to. And I think that the influencer portion can come after that, because I think what ends up happening is as you start finding more and more of those people that fit your avatar, then you start becoming more opportunist in the influencer type brand. I think both are necessary in one sense, because I think a lot of times people think of, an executive brand as I don't share anything of my personal, I don't show my lifestyle, I don't show all these things all the time. And I think that we can look at some examples of people that are both, that good in both arenas. Tony Robbins is one, right? So he started his brand more as an executive brand. Mm-hmm. Now he's become more of an influencer, but yet he still pulls from an executive brand. Mm-hmm. And we see him do a combination of that, right? So we see him with now his pictures of his family, right? His young ones. And we see a little insight to his personal, which I think is important for executive brands to have a touch on, because that shows the part of them that most people don't
humanize them.
And it humanizes them. Thank you for that word. And it also builds trust, right? So I think those, you can be both. I just clearly want to say that. I know you have a framework for building more of an executive brand. Can you share with our audience that?
Sure. So the executive brand framework that I have, it's called the ICON. Okay. And the I stands for identity. So who are you? What do you want to be known for? Or what do you stand for? I mean, that is a very specific approach in how to find out how you really want to show up in the world. The second is credibility. Okay. What have you done? What are the receipts that you have that gives you the authority to show up as an executive brand? The other one that I have here is originality. What are your frameworks? Do you have intellectual property that you've created and it's only be known to you? The other one is narrative. What do you talk about? What is it exactly that from a narrative standpoint, I'd like to say, who am I? Which is a combination of identity, but this is what I'm about.
Yeah, I look at narrative is the message, right?
Right, this is what I'm about.
Yeah, the consistency in message. And I think that it's interesting because, I think whether you're a business, coach or you sell an product, right? The ICON framework works, right? Because I love the way you built in the credibility, because a lot of times people, they miss that, right? And no matter what type of product or service you're in, I always think back when I was taught it was a sales 101, right? So what was the first thing? You grab their attention, right? That's you, that's your identity. That's what you're talking, that's what you're showing up, right? But then the next thing was always, you have to put the credibility factor in. And if you think about it, credibility can be, we've been in business for a long time. I've built, multiple businesses before. I help businesses grow and scale, right? That credibility is a factor, right? And I think those two things, as you move to the actual, in the sales process, you would move to the value proposition. And that a little bit is what you're talking about in originality, right? Because the originality is am I marketing somebody else's product, or am I marketing what I believe is the best product, right? Have I done something special to that product that makes it and separates it from everybody else's, right? And then your narrative is really kind of the close, right? It's how consistent am I in my messaging? And I love the ICON framework because it works. And it works on really any type of business owner, any type of product or service, because it's their brand. It's not necessarily the ultimate, the business brand, right? The business has its own brand. you have a brand. And I think that's where a lot of times people get confused on this as we're talking this out.
Well,
I think
everybody has a brand.
everybody does have a brand. It just depends on what they're demonstrating.
What kind of brand it is.
Right.
Could be a very tarnished brand.
Well, hopefully not.
But there is.
Yeah.
I mean, we know people that had a brand or have a brand, but the brand isn't that great.
Right.
So, I mean, they don't fall into any one of the two, really.
Right. And that's why I think the other word within the executive brand, it's not part of the framework, but it comes in, is trust, right? Because if you're truly that person, that individual, that business, and you're not just saying things, but your actions back it up.
But that's part of the credibility factor.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So being able to have your intellectual property, your frameworks, what do you stand, what is it that you've done that creates that authority in the market, to the audience that are you're hoping that are going to follow you.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. And I think that, the executive brand isn't really going after the shiny object all the time. They're not looking for that.
Kind of visibility, yeah.
But remember, the thing that we haven't really used the word in is executive brands, in my opinion, leverage the word influential versus maybe influencer as much, right?
Yes, they're influential in their community.
Yeah.
Their community looks at them differently. They're not always on social media. They can be in their community in person.
Right.
None of the two are better than the other. It is who you want to be known for. At the end of the day, you have to know what you want to be when you grow up.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about this, and this is
maybe not.
What?
Maybe not. I don't know.
No, I was just thinking about this, but an executive brand allows you to show up on multiple different types of mediums. When you think about an influencer brand.
Well, tell me about that.
Okay.
I want to know.
Well, sure. We have a social media presence. It wasn't how we started, right? We built through the community, right? We built in magazine articles, different things that we can leverage, right? Blogs, right? So, you have been more so highlighted in different magazines, right? So your executive brand comes through whether you're doing something on LinkedIn or Instagram or a magazine article. And that gives people a different degree of credibility and also it gives people something that they can trust because it's consistent no matter where you're at.
Right. Well, and also executive brand for the most part, they do have their casual wear, but they do also show up how they want to be seen and treated in, who their audience is. That's very important to understand. We deal with high-level business owners, right? People that are trying to scale and grow their business. I would say anybody that's in the 7 figures and above, that is who we typically talk to. So that kind of client that it is specifically in the brick and mortar kind of client, they're doctors, there are executives, they are franchisees, right? So those types of clients, you want to make sure that you give them the respect of dressing up to show up and making sure that is how you align with them. Listen, it's no different than going into court. You wouldn't go as an attorney, show up and, that's your audience. You have to dress up the part because the court will throw you out.
Right.
Right. And I think that's very understated these days because of the influential brand, and people just are kind of like, they don't know where to hang their hats on.
No, definitely. And I think, coming out of COVID, not that it was that long ago, but we had a lot of people out there that were just getting eyeballs, right? They were doing silly things on social media. People would be watching because what else were you going to do during COVID? Unless you were like us and we were working, 18 hours a day. But my point there is that in what we're really trying to get across is that, understand what you want to be, right? What is your purpose? What is your end game? And if you're entrepreneurs and you're business owners and you're trying to grow and scale your business and you're spending time marketing your product, you probably fall first more so in the executive brand where you're not necessarily chasing the shiny object. And then you become more influential, and then you could potentially move towards influencer, right? And I think that that's what we're saying is that, understand where you are and understand who you are.
Your identity.
Exactly. Part of the icon framework.
Yep.
And where you want to go, and then build from there. And the best way I know is build your brand as an executive brand that you have fun with and still show your personal side, but you're really growing to your audience that you want to sell and market your products and your service, teach and educate, and then let the other come about naturally.
Yes, I agree.
You agree with that?
I agree with that.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's really what we wanted to get across today. And so until next time,
Let's get to work.